The markets have been unusually quiet this past week, with most coins still holding key support levels. But do not let this volatility fool you, because I think we are heading into a weekend that is going to set up the next major run. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the DataDash channel. My name is Cassie, and some of you may know me as Cassie Trades over on X, where I share what I've learned over the last 10 years analyzing and trading the crypto markets. So if you're not doing so already, make sure to give me a follow over there. So Bitcoin is in a really interesting position right now because it's about to come down for a subwave that is going to be very critical to not make a new low if we want to see this bullish momentum continue. And so today I'm going to walk you through the charts and go through all the tools that I use to analyze markets and take a look at the exact levels that I'm going to be watching as we head into the weekend. So we have a lot to cover today. Let's get right into it. Okay, so we have the Bitcoin daily chart pulled up here, and I really want to take the time to go through the tools that I use to analyze the markets and make sure that you understand the different elements that come with my analysis. So from Bitcoin's all-time high, you can see here that we've made this wave down here, down to our lowest low at 74,000. So from all-time high down to 74,000, we have made one wave down. So in Elliott wave theory, this first wave down would be considered our A wave. And we are getting confirmation on the daily chart of a bullish bottom. You can see that as the price was coming down to this level, we are getting exhausted on the selling. So the RSI made a higher high. It did not make a lower low. So this is a bullish divergence on the daily chart for Bitcoin. And then since then, we've started to come up, and we did find resistance at this major 382. This was at 86,200. That's the larger 382 retracement. So what I have here then on the chart over to the right, you can see the larger Fibonacci retracement levels. This is pulled from the all-time high. And if I go into it here, you can see the coordinates. We have the all-time high down to that last major low there. So on my coordinates, I have 48,691 about. So this will give you the macro retracement levels for Bitcoin that we're eyeing here. Once I'm zoomed out here, you can see a little bit clearer what those fibs look like there. So from our all-time high, we have our wave A coming down, and it's reached that 0.5, overall that macro 0.5 support here, even though it did come a little bit down from that. It is finding support at that 79,000. This is the macro 0.5 level. So we did find support there, and we did build that bullish bottom. Like I was saying, this is the higher high on RSI there. So I do believe that from that high there, we did complete our A wave of the correction. So from the A wave, we would be expecting a B wave correction coming up. And I think that this is where things get exciting, because in a B wave like this is where most traders in the majority of the market will think that Bitcoin is going to come up for a new high. But it is very possible that it doesn't, and it actually finds resistance instead of making a new high. So it's going to be really critical to watch this new high and see what happens at the B targets. So we'll get that in just a second. And then from a B top, we would expect a new low coming down for a C wave. And we're going to get that all measured out here just in a second. I just wanted to explain that before we get even further into the technicals here. So we have wave A coming down from all-time high, B coming up, and then C wave making a new low from there. So if I put in my markers, my Elliott wave markers, our standard ABC correction would look like this. We have our A wave coming down, our B wave coming up, and then our C wave making a new low. So in just a little bit, we'll get this measured out and I'll show you how I do that here. So we have A wave coming down. It is reaching a really critical Fibonacci support. So it's giving us more confidence that this was our A wave. If we do not come up any higher than this 382 and we continue to make a new low, it will probably still be the A wave at that point because we haven't made a proper B wave correction yet. So in Elliott wave theory, the B wave corrects 50% of the A wave. So I'm going to just measure that out so we can have our markers clearly measured out with all of our textbook targets. So right from all-time high, we're just measuring all the way down to the bottom of A. And in Elliott wave theory, it says that the B wave should target the 0.5 retracement. So on Bitcoin, that's at 92,000. That's the 0.5 retracement. The only rule for B is that it just cannot make a new high. So we could see B come up to 96,095 area and still be considered our B wave here and expecting that C wave new low following that. So I'm just going to set it for our standard target there, which is at 92,000. That's the 0.5 retracement in standard correction for B wave. So we have all that there. I'm going to get rid of the other fibs so it doesn't create a lot of noise on our chart, or as best as possible removes this noise. So I've left there just our retracements for the B wave, our possible B wave retracements here. So coming up anywhere between 92,000 to 97 so far is what we're expecting. Now let's get our C wave target, which is down here, making a new low below A. Let's get our C wave target and see where that would land in our correction. So this C wave typically is the same length as A. So it's a 1 of 1 of A. And to get that measurement, you take your extension tool and you just go from the all-time high to the bottom of A to the textbook target of B. So the textbook target was this 0.5. I'm just going to bring the extension to the 0.5 because when you're future mapping, which is what we're doing here, you want to stick to the textbook Elliott wave targets and then adjust as the actuals are made. So with our standard B target there, we have our C wave targeting 1, the 1 extension. So what this means is this price down here would make our C wave the exact same length as our A wave coming down. And this is a standard Elliott wave A, B, C here and how you would measure that out. And you can see here our 1 extension lands really nicely at our larger macro support. So we're getting confluence on our subwaves at 57,000 and our macro support also at 57,000. So if everything plays out textbook, we would expect an ABC on Bitcoin to end at 57,000. So now let's get a little bit more zoomed in and take a look at this drop that's coming up in the next few days and see what we need to keep this plan valid, because in the next few days, if we do start to come down, we cannot make a new low below A in order for this plan to stay valid. So it's going to be really critical that as price does come down, we do not make a new low below 74,000 in order to keep this valid here. So we're on the daily chart. I'm going to get a little bit more zoomed in here and we're going to look at this B wave here. So we're going to get more zoomed in. All right, you guys, I'm on the 1 hour chart here, and this is that B wave that I was just saying we're going to get zoomed in. This is the lowest point here in the correction so far. That's at that 74,400 on Bitcoin. That's the low. And I have retracement levels pulled from that low up to the high that it's made. So right at that 382 at 86,000 where it had resistance, I'm pulling my retracements for that entire wave there. And like I was saying, in Elliott wave theory, we would be expecting a B wave right now coming up from that A wave low. And a B wave itself has its own patterns and rules that it follows. A B wave is a correction wave, so it would follow a corrective type pattern. Most of the time is its own ABC. So that's what we're expecting as we map this out. We're expecting this to build some kind of ABC up to our larger B wave targets here, which, like I was saying, was from 92,000 up to 96, 97,000. That's where I think this rally could be heading next. So in this next low, we cannot make a new low below 74,000, and we should be forming some kind of ABC, but the standard target would be this 0.5 here, which is at 80,470. That's the 0.5 retracement from that low at 74,000 up to that high at 86,000. Just this small wave here, that's the 0.5 retracement. So if I were to break down our B here down into its own ABC, so from the bottom of A to the top of A, coming down for what we think is B, and then finishing for a C wave up to its final B target. So you can see here how we're breaking down our larger ABC into its own subwaves here. So we have our B wave that should break down into its own ABC. So now we can get a little bit plan here for the next few days in this next drop, what could happen and what we need to look out for. So as I was just saying, the B wave targets the 0.5 retracement. So right now that's at 80,470. We do have really heavy alignment at this 79,000 area. That again is the macro 0.5 retracement, but it's also a 618 retracement on our subwaves, the golden retracement on our subwaves. And it is very possible that Bitcoin comes down to test that and flip that into support. So I'm eyeing both the 0.5 textbook retracement, that's at 80,500, but we could also see that deeper retracement at that 79,000 area. So what we can do next is get a second confluence on which one this could land in order to meet our larger B wave target. Because like I was saying earlier, our C wave should make a 1 of 1 of A. So now that we have A built out and a potential B measurement, we could get our C wave target. So let's do that. So starting at the bottom of A to the top of A, and then coming down to our textbook target at B, 0.5. So you can see here, we are getting some alignment. We have our C wave coming up to 92,000, which is very, very close to that textbook B wave target at 92,200. So these are very close. This would be confluence here at this level, at our 0.5 level. So that means in the next few days, we do not want to see Bitcoin make a new low. Hopefully it holds that 79,000. That would be key. Even the 80,500 would be a really nice area to see Bitcoin hold. We just cannot make a new low in order for this plan to stay valid. And with our measurements, we're getting confluence that of our targets here of our 80,500 and our 79,000. It could go a little bit deeper there, but we're just going to expect that 0.5 B retracement because it's landing us perfectly at our top for a C wave. So like I was saying, this rally here could signal a lot of altcoin movement because altcoins, many of them are at support. So if we start to see any signs of liquidity coming into Bitcoin, it could really start to spark that major rally. And it actually, from what I'm seeing, looks like it could be across the market. So altcoins could be coming up for new highs. Bitcoin may not make a new high, but it does look like we will have a strong rally. So if I get a little bit more backed out here, we do have heavy alignment just on that macro time scale at this 96,000, because you can see if I go over to the left here, you can see just how much action was at these levels historically. So it's going to be a major test coming up. So I would not be surprised if we start to get a lot of strength on Bitcoin, that it does reach those 96 prices. And we are going to be looking for exhaustion in the market. So if Bitcoin were to be coming up for a new high, we should not be seeing any exhaustion as it's hitting. So as we're coming up to our C wave targets here, C of B, we are going to be looking for exhaustion in the market. So if Bitcoin were to continue on for a new high up to 126,000, we wouldn't see exhaustion here at these B targets. We would start to see really strong momentum breaking these local resistances. So that's what we're looking out for in the next few days, probably coming down to these support levels heading into the weekend. 80,500, 79,000 going to be critical supports for Bitcoin to hold and not make a new low. And then from there, though, this is setting up for a really nice rally coming up to finish off this B wave, I believe. And it's going to be a really critical point in the market, because Bitcoin could take off to new highs, or it could find heavy resistance at these prices and go on to that 57,000 support that we looked at earlier. So that is still weeks away. That's for another update. But I just wanted to get zoomed in here and kind of show you what to expect for these next few days and really when that breakout could occur. So I really do think this next new subwave down is going to be very critical in setting up what happens next for Bitcoin and really across the market. So I still think there's time in April to have a major breakout across the market. And it does look like with what the charts are saying that we're heading to those support levels soon. All right, you guys, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoy TA videos like this one, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the DataDash channel. We'll see you in the next one and have a great weekend.